Let's make that one. Faulkner wallet. A very, very simple. Yep. Hey. 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 Easy design. This is the original prototype I made years and years ago out of some scraps. But, as you can see, it's only 4 pieces. So, we can do that pretty easy, and I'll show you some tricks. So, let's roll. But first, let's wet the old whistle. What the hell? Alright, I've noticed over the last 60 videos or so that I keep getting the same questions over and over and over. So I'm going to answer in this video what kind of leather, how thick the leather is, needles, this cutting mat, how big it is, where to get it, what the bump jigs are, what mauls I use, leather pliers, thread, what edge bevelers I use, what leather rougher I use to rough before gluing, knives, what knives I use, some arc jigs, more bump jigs, coffee. Yes, I get asked all the time, what am I drinking? That's coffee. And every once in a while, I'll toss in whatever. And I will also go over what glue I'm using. So watch the video, be patient. Here we go. Okay. English tan Dublin from Horween. We're looking at about 5.5 ounces. And an explanation on Horween English tan Dublin. Horween is the company, the tannery. Dublin is the tannage used. English tan is the color. Simple. We just got 3 pieces, 4 pieces, something like that. We're just going to do a rough cut to start. Knife. This is just an NT blade cutter off Amazon. I've got a link probably in the description. I have a whole bunch of knives that my son made, but he's got all of them in his forge right now. He's sharpening them and stropping them and getting them ready, and I just couldn't wait, so just use this one. Now I like to grease the back and burnish it with a glass burnisher. That's a Berry King glass burnisher. And then heat it up, dry it out if I'm in a hurry. You can leave it sit, but I like to hurry it up sometimes. And then buff it out and see how pretty and smooth it can be on the back. And occasionally I will do the front too. To make this easy, just put a straight edge on one side, like so, because when I made this pattern, I did all the measuring I needed to do when I made the pattern, so I don't ever have to measure again. Measure once, cut 1,000 times. One time for the pattern, 1,000 times to make it. So, for the rest of this, there's no measuring at all. Next step, we've already got a straight edge down here. I've flipped it over. Let's put a right angle right here. Using the bump jig, just bump that jig right up to the bottom of that leather. Put your square right there. It's almost square now, but let's make it perfect. Now we know we have a perfectly square edge. And to keep track of that edge, I like to put a mark right there in that corner on the underside. Now I'll always know that that is perfectly square. Remember, we've only got 4 pieces. The main body and the 3 pockets. Well, these 3 pockets are the exact same height or length, depending on how you want to look at it. So that way when you stitch, they're the same on the edges. So again, we're going to continue on with the theme of no measuring. I've already measured this once. I shouldn't ever have to measure this again for the rest of my life. Okay, we have our square right here. We have our piece that we never want to measure again, but we need to make 3 that have the same length. Take your bump jig, put it right there on the edge. We'll do the height later. Bump that up to the bump jig. Get your bump jig onto your pattern. Get a ruler or cutting edge. Move your jig out of the way. And there you have it. No measuring. Now, remember we have our square here. We need a square here. So, simple as doing that all over again. Just going up and down instead of left and right. Or left and right instead of up and down. Now that matches that perfectly. No measuring. Now we do it again, but we don't need this paper pattern. You might as well use the leather one since that's going to be used in your wallet anyhow. So we can go length first. And then width. Or height and length or width or height or whatever. One side, other side. Now those 2 pieces are identical. No measuring, and took about 45 seconds. One more, this little curved one. Now we know the length is the same as your other 2 pockets, so you may as well just use one of those for a pattern and cut. There you have it. Let's do the height now. Just twist it, bump jig, right there, like so, bump jig. We just need to put that curve on there. For that curve, I'm going to grab one of these. These are our arc templates or arc jigs. These are available on the website. I'll put a link in the description, and I did a whole video on these, but I'm just going to grab probably that one. Hold on, let's go take a look. So, something like that. That is the exact same curve. Now on the microscopic level, I don't like these little points. So I just simply get another one of the arcs, a smaller one, bump that right up there until you get to the right spot. And see that little tip? Just cut that off so it's a little bit more flowy. Do the same over here. Let's just make that a little flowy. Now we have this curve here and this curve here. Let's grab an arc, see which one fits. Not that one. That's perfect. Remember, we're not going to measure. We're just going to roll with it. Just take a bump jig, set it right there, center it, grab a scrap. How easy is that? Now do it again. And as we know, we don't like points, so let's get rid of these points. Grab a different size, whatever size you like. Put that bump jig on the top and slice that off. And then do it again on this side. And repeat. Easy peasy. Real quick, As promised, I told you I would tell you about this cutting mat. It's 8 foot by 4 foot, self-healing, reversible, green on one side, black on the other, by Alvin. There you go. And I have a link to Alvin cutting mats in my description, so check it out. Next up, we need to get this main body cut out. A quick way just to get that measurement: put your pattern on here against your bump jig on the end. Put a line anywhere, right there is fine. Put that bump jig on your straight line. Put a square down on your score line. There you go, you've got your length. Now for your height, you know these pockets are going on there, so let's use that height. Just bump everything up to that jig. There you go. Now we've got all of our pieces. No measuring. Next up, we need to knock this edge off. And we're going to use the Berry King edge bevelers. These are sized from 00 to 4. Doesn't make sense, I see, but it's 00, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Smallest, and here's a little cheat sheet for you. What I do, I'll use the 00 for 3 ounce single layer, the 0 for 4 to 6 ounce single layer, the number 1 from 7 ounce and above usually. I rarely get into the 2, 3, or 4. Those 3. So 99% of the time, I'm right here with the 0 and the 1. Let's toss some color on these edges. And do a little polishing. Just some canvas. It's not too bad. Now how do our edges look? Yeah, that's acceptable. Let's go toss a stamp right there so we know who we are. Bump jigs, perfect for stamps. All right, let's nail this thing together. And by nail, I mean glue. So we're looking like this on one side, that on the other. But to get that glue to stick a little better, I use a rougher. My son makes these. Handmade, hand forged. Just rough where the glue goes. On the underside of the pockets, it's pretty easy to know where it goes, obviously. When we get to the face of this and the back of this, I'll show you a little trick using the bump jigs. So we want this pocket to go right here, which doesn't go to the top, doesn't go to the end. So we want our glue and roughs to stop here and here. You could use either bump jig. I like the 1/2 inch for these corners. Just bump it in there like that. And mark where you want your glue to stop. And move it over here. Mark where you want your glue to stop. There. And there. and then just rough it up. And do the same for that side. And remember, we have one outside pocket. It's going to go right there. So same thing works on the outside. Barge cement and barge thinner. You're going to need thinner. I've got to thin this out every couple of weeks or so. Now just slam it together. Hold on. Leather pliers. These are from Amy Roke, and they're absolutely perfect. Mauls. Here's a few that I have. What I use the most is this 1 pound one and this 3 pound one. Occasionally the 6, but not often. So let's go. And we know we don't like sharp corners. Arc punch. Mascon ZV Anvil. Link in the description. Japanese cutting mat. Now, probably the easiest part of the whole wallet build, marking the stitch line. Just take some dividers. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way through, all the way around, unlike this one where I stopped. Just gives it a better look. Sort of like pinstriping on a car. I did a whole video on hand stitching. So I'm going to run through most of this pretty quick, but I'll tell you about the needles and the thread here in a little bit. Hey. Alright, that's how she should look after all your holes are punched. Thread. I use Ritza tiger thread. Usually about 1 millimeter. Sometimes I'll go to 0.8. For needles, I use John James, Saddlers and harness needles. As I said a little while ago, I've just recently did a whole video designated to hand stitching. So you could go over there to the channel and watch everything there is to know about the chisels, the punching, the stitching, everything. Alright, let's knock these rough, square, hideous edges off. And a little bit of life. Let's add some life. Remember, nothing synthetic, no plastics, no chemicals, all natural. Next up, let's add some polish to that life. you know, a little something like that. All right, here we go. I think it came out pretty good. Put some cards over here, put some cards over here. Hell, put some cards back here.